Welcome everyone to the Howl Podcast, where we feature guests from various backgrounds with captivating stories to tell. And our goal is to bring people together by sharing diverse perspectives and experiences, and also empowering and amplifying underrepresented voices to inspire positive change in the world. And I'm your host today, Juan Raimundo Ramos. And I'm super excited about this podcast episode because the guest today is someone very strong, an amazing leader in every way, also very talented. And her name is Camila Villanueva, an award-winning filmmaker and the founder and CEO of Commotion Pictures, a production company supporting the underrepresented, supporting BIPOC, women, non-binary, immigrant, queer, and all authentic experiences of the underrepresented communities through visual narratives since 2022. And we're excited to hear and learn more about Camila, her journey, as well as her production company that just launched called Commotion Pictures. So without further ado, please welcome Camila Villanueva. Welcome.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is so great.
Absolutely. And congratulations, by the way, on your launch for Commotion Pictures. Very excited to hear more about that. But first and foremost, we want our viewers to learn more about you and your journey. So kindly just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background as well.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I have a really interesting background. I started out as a biomedical engineer. I went to school and I got my master's, and I worked in cardiac defibrillators and pacemakers for 3 years before making the switch to filmmaking. So I kind of realized, in the 3 years where I was like saving lives and putting in pacemakers and defibrillators, that I was living my life for my patients, and I was living the life that my parents had wanted for me, but it wasn't really the life that I had wanted for myself. It didn't really bring me joy. I was saving these people's lives, but I was incredibly unfulfilled. I had always been a storyteller. When I was young, my earliest memories are me singing A Whole New World with my cousins, when I was 3, and I would always be like, I'm Jasmine, I have to sing Jasmine's parts. And I would perform for my family. My dad is one of 12, so I have close to 30 first cousins on my dad's side.
Wow.
So I would always perform for the family gatherings, Christmas parties. And so there was no stage fright or anything. It was just what was expected, karaoke, for all the parties. So we were all pros. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's a lot of family members for sure. But I'm always interested to, hear more about where Filipino filmmakers come from. And some of them have a different career path before transitioning into film. So, talk a little bit about that, as far as your journey in the world of filmmaking.
Yeah,
what
it's
sparked
so
your interest?
interesting. Because as soon as I started telling my story of I was a biomedical engineer, but now I'm a filmmaker, all of these people started coming up to me and started telling me I used to be a nurse, or I used to be a doctor, but now I'm in the arts, which is so great. I love that about storytelling. It just bringing people with shared experiences and kind of coming together in community and growing up in a traditional Filipino household. When you're an immigrant, I moved to the States when I was 9 years old. And what my parents knew is to survive. And to survive, you find a stable paying job. And I come from a long line of doctors. I come from a long line of engineers. I come from a long line of lawyers. So the only viable career path was, a lawyer, doctor, engineer. We didn't know anybody in the arts. We didn't know writers. We didn't know actors. We do hear of actors, they're usually waiting tables and stuff like that. So even though growing up, I was a talented storyteller. I would write poetry. I was in the poetry slam in 7th grade, spoken word poetry. And I even got a Young Authors Award for a book that I wrote in 7th grade. I got this really cool sealed stamp from that book. And then I would do all the plays. I was the lead role in all of the musicals. So everyone in high school thought I would go off and become this like Broadway star. But instead I pivoted and I chose biomedical engineering because I listened to my parents. I found a stable career. And, you know, what I realized, money isn't everything. Like, yes, I was making a ton of money, but if you're not doing what you love to do, it just kind of put me in a very dark place. It didn't bring me joy. It didn't make me feel alive. The fire that burned whenever I would tell stories or be performing slowly dwindled. And in an effort to just reignite it back, I had to sit my parents down in like 2017, I believe. And I was just like, look, like I did it your way. All these years, I thought I would be much happier. But I need to do something else because if I don't know how much longer I can keep living this way. So I quit my job. I traveled for like half the year just to kind of like eat, pray, love it. You know, I was trying to figure out what my next step was. And then I just decided to go back to what I really loved doing, which was, it was acting. So I moved to LA to become an actress. But I realized early on, this was like in 2018. May of 2018. When you're an actress, you don't really have control whether the writing's any good, or if the role is a nice part, or if the film goes anywhere. Like for festivals, like the quality of the film, you don't know what you're walking into when you go on set sometimes. And I wanted a little bit more control in my career path than that. So I enrolled in UCLA's directing certificate program. And that was April 2019. And let me tell you, Juan, like after the very first day of class, it was called Craft of the Director. Mm-hmm. It was like this like light bulb moment, like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. Like the instructor was just so passionate about stories and filmmaking and telling visual narratives. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is the lane. I'm a director. And like from then on, like I couldn't care less about being in front of the camera anymore. I just wanted to like tell stories. So the plan was, you know, to like write my own things so that I can cast myself in it. But like now I'm just like, I only act if my friends want me to. But now I just like want to keep telling more of these stories that have been kind of like stuffed down for a long time. And now that I'm finally like living my truth and doing what it is that fills me with so much joy, I'm just like so ready. Like I'm ready to just put it all out there into the world.
Absolutely. And now you're doing something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. And yeah, thank you for sharing that story, for bringing that up, because I know a lot of people in the industry, at least like people in my circle as well, who had like a career path before becoming a filmmaker, and how hard that transition is because of the instability and the money situation, mm-hmm. right? Like mm-hmm. just because, you know, you're doing something, you know, for a living, and then maybe they're making a little bit more than what they are as an artist, but like it's not giving them, I guess, a sense of purpose, a sense of joy, mm-hmm. like you mentioned. So talk a little bit about that, like as far as like support, right? Like is your like social circle, family, friends, and community now support you for what you do?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I feel like I wouldn't be here without the support of my community. I think partly why I didn't go off and become this Broadway star after high school is because I felt that no one believed in me, because no one believed that I could make a career out of it. And now that I've kind of changed paths, like I had to believe in myself, and I had to believe that this is what I want to do. And because it became that mentality switch that like, this is it, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. People saw that shift in me as well. And they're like so happy that I am doing what really brings me joy, because they could see the 180. I was in such a dark place when I wasn't doing it. And now that I'm here with like fellow creatives, you surround yourself with people who are also doing things, which inspires you to just be at that level and keep creating. It helps. So when I first moved to LA, I joined an acting class, and a lot of the people that I met in that acting class are still my friends today. And so now that I'm making movies, like I hope to kind of like, cast them in my films too. But I think that's what I love about being in LA, because you're just surrounded by a lot of creatives. When you find your people, it really helps kind of keep the dream alive, because you see that everyone is also trying to do the same thing and keep the dream alive. I also found Film Creative, which is a really great community. That's how we met. And a lot of like these events where you can get to know other filmmakers, and it really just like, it starts off as like networking events, but then you develop friendships. And when you become friends with the people that you work with, it really hardly becomes work. Like it's kind of like we're just hanging out, creating some cool things. So I think that's what I love about being here and doing that here in LA.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. There's so many like-minded individuals, that are amazing to be around and amazing to work with, right? And it's even a plus when, for example, you mentioned about Film Creative and Filipino creatives. Yeah. You see them, striving, and they're also, working amazingly. So I want to touch on like you as a filmmaker very quickly before we get into the next topic. Like as far as like your projects you've done, like what kind of stuff do you do? Like mostly like narrative? Do you do music videos, etc.? What do you do?
I like focusing on narrative work now. I used to do music videos. I used to do commercials. I used to work for this production company in New York. When I was living in New York, I was a production coordinator there, where we did a lot of commercial work and corporate work. But now that I am, with Commotion Pictures, I liked focusing on narrative. So I have 4 short films under my belt. 2 of those are under Commotion Pictures. And then so many more projects coming up in 2024. So the projects that I gravitate towards are usually, stories from the underrepresented community. My first short film was Masaru, and that's a Japanese American story about this Major League Baseball player that really wanted to transition to becoming this traditional Japanese dancer. So it's like finding the balance between honoring yourself and honoring your family and your traditions, and living your truth. The second film is also similar, where it's a queer story about this Chinese American who's trying to decide whether or not she should bring her girlfriend to Chinese New Year with her family, because they don't know that she has a girlfriend. So again, it's like, finding a way to stay true to yourself, what brings you joy, and hoping that your family and the rest of the world will understand and feel happy for you too, because you're doing what you love, and you're kind of not having to hide who you truly are. The third film is Pedacito de Carne. So that one is a Latinx millennial caregiving story about sacrificing for the ones that you love, which I know very, very much as a Filipino. We do so much for our families. So again, it's all like narratives that are kind of unique to their communities, but also universal. Like I feel as a Filipino American, I could relate to a Japanese American story, Chinese American story, Latinx story. It's not about race. It's really those universal feelings and emotions that we all have to deal with, like love and doing things for the one that you love. And then again, living your truth and doing what makes you happy. So that's kind of been like my MO, like, oh, please, like, I just want to tell more of these stories from the underrepresented community and show that we do have these like vibrant cultures on top of these like stories that everyone can relate to, not just those isolated communities.
Yeah, I love that. I love when you say that because, like, you know, some people, when they think of, like, for example, like a Filipino film, only has to be about Filipino, but not necessarily. Like, all these stories can actually be relatable to many different audiences out there.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I can't wait to watch all of your projects, all your films and stuff like that. So
Thanks.
whenever there's a screening or whatever, invite everyone. Let's do it.
There's one coming up this Sunday. So if you all are in Long Beach, the Q Festival in Long Beach, we're screening Masaru, which is the first film. That is at 11 a.m., I believe, on Sunday, September 17th.
September 17th. Be there.
Yeah.
Be there.
Yes.
Absolutely. And now you're a founder and CEO of Commotion Pictures.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to be seeing, like, you know, fellow Filipino filmmakers have their own production company as well and with their own mission. So can you share a little bit about the company itself, Commotion Pictures, and its mission? And also, like, what motivated you to, you know, start this production company that focuses on underrepresented communities?
Yeah, great question. So I started out in the industry as first AD, then I worked my way up to unit production manager and eventually as a producer. I mentioned I was working for this production company in New York as a production coordinator, and I realized I was just like making that company so much money, and I could do so much better, and I could be telling the stories that I wanted. So that was kind of like the driving force. And also, like, I was just tired of the industry being what it is. There's so many like bad practices, I feel, for lack of a better term. I didn't like how people were working 12-hour days and then driving home late at night to only go back to set early in the morning. So I wanted to be a little bit more in control of that. And to do that, you have to be a producer. I'm going to tell you like one instance. I was on set. I was a unit production manager. It was this big movie, and we wanted to shoot in this location in the desert, and it was going to be 113 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
And the closest hospital was going to be 30 minutes away. The set medic was like, this isn't a good idea to go. So I, as like the unit production manager, I bring it up to the producers, hey, like, it's not safe to do this. We should reschedule to a different day. But instead of rescheduling, they decided that they would just send everyone a waiver that was like, you're not going to sue us if you die, basically. And I was just like, okay, at most, you're really losing a couple $1,000, like that versus somebody's life. I don't know. It seems like an easy decision. So I was just kind of like done letting other people kind of control that aspect of like filmmaking. At the end of the day, we're making movies. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be this like life or death situation. So I really wanted to advocate for my team and just like pick safety over anything. As a first AD, you kind of like gravitate towards that. And also as a human being, like you just want to be better to people. All these like long work hours is just not good for anyone's mental health and also your creativity. I feel like when you're tired, like you don't really like create the best work. So now as a founder and CEO of Commotion Pictures, like those are kind of the things that I hope to be better at for the future. I want to do like less shooting hours to emphasize a work-life balance.
Yes.
I want it to be like filmmaking is not your everything. I know we all have like families, we all have like other hobbies, and I want us to have time to do that. So when it's time to go on set, we can be our most creative self and most inspired self, because when you're tired, again, it's like not the best. So Commotion Pictures, I just want to be better for my crew. And I also, again, want to be better storytellers for the future storytellers and better for the environment. So I also have this like green set initiative that I like to do with Commotion Pictures, where I try to use more sustainable practices. There's this green production guide that the PGA came out with to kind of promote more sustainable practices on set. Because let me tell you, like, Hollywood is the most wasteful industry. There's just a lot of like water bottles on set, which is one of my big pet peeves. Things that you use just once and never again. And I'm just like, you can donate that to like a film school, or like, you know, there's other ways where we can kind of be better for the environment too for the future. So that's kind of the premise of like why I wanted to just start my own production company. I just wanted to create a better work environment. I wanted to make it more wholesome and fun, and also create like people that want to work with me and kind of become this family. Like, again, at the end of the day, we're making a movie and it is supposed to be fun. So I try to have that nice environment on set as well.
Absolutely. And I'm super glad that you're a CEO and founder of that, to, you know, talk a little bit about those practices as well, because we are at the end of the day, human beings, like you said, right? Like, you know, just because filmmaking and making movies is something we're passionate about and something we want to do, we don't want to kill, you know, each other based on, you know, like everything, you know, the hours, etc. And unfortunately, you know, what I've noticed, like, I guess over the years, as people have been getting into accidents, etc., like even on set, right, etc., because of the practices, etc. Yeah. So thank you so much for bringing that up and for, you know, telling the audience about that. I wanted to touch on, I guess, part of your mission, which is like about authentic storytelling as well. Yeah. Like, can you discuss the importance of authentic storytelling and also representation in the film industry, like especially for underrepresented communities?
Yeah. So my company, again, is dedicated to telling the stories of the underrepresented community. And I think a large part of that mission is just to bring light to some of the things that, some of the challenges that we go through as the underrepresented community. Oftentimes, like, what Hollywood will do is just cast somewhat a person of color just to kind of fill a check mark. Like, oh, they just need more diversity on the screen, so let me cast this Filipino nurse. Actually, not nurse. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Filipino nurses, but there are a lot of Filipino nurses in real life. So maybe Hollywood do better on that. Yeah. So for me, it's just, we are also our leading roles. We also go through this spectrum of emotions and feelings, and we're not just like the stereotypes that Hollywood makes us out to be. So it's mostly stories like that, like that I like to gravitate towards, showing us in a light that has all of our depth and our character and our struggles is really kind of what I want to see more of. Yes, it's so hard to kind of explain, but there are certain nuances to being an immigrant, for example, that a lot of people don't realize we go through. There are all these like microaggressions for being a person of color that if we don't show this to the mainstream media, people don't really realize that it's a reality for us sometimes. So it's that a lot of it is bringing awareness to those kinds of stories, but also celebrating our wins too. When we have wins, we have such a vibrant culture that people don't realize. And it's the same for like, you know, Pacific Islanders. It's the same for the Hispanics, the Latinos, because we don't see a lot of those stories. Like, people don't get to experience that. And I just really want to share more of that to the world. So I'll give you an example. I'm working on this feature film, and it's a Filipino Alice in Wonderland story about healing your inner child. And I picked Alice in Wonderland as like a grounding story that everyone kind of knows. But my intention is to showcase a lot of our Filipino mythical creatures and folklore. So when people watch it, they'll realize, oh, we have our own Cheshire Cat characters too. We have our own like Mad Hatter characters too. And I think it just makes it that much more fun.
Absolutely. Oh, I can't wait to see that too. Yeah, that's such an amazing story. And you know what makes me happy too is like, I guess seeing like these independent Filipino filmmakers, independent production companies making their own stuff too, and allowing themselves to be seen in the world, whether it's like through film festivals and many different ways as well. And I'm also happy to be seeing more Filipino film festivals coming up, for example, like the San Diego Filipino Film Festival, and also Film Creative Film Festival that's coming up very soon. So,
me too.
Yeah. So I guess having, at least in this day and age, like witnessing all these Filipino representation happening is very amazing to me. So,
it makes you feel seen, right? So I feel like if I had someone back in the day, like a woman of color who looked like me, that was doing all these cool filmmaking things, maybe it would have made me kind of say, look, she's doing it, so that means I can do it too. And so my hope is like, whoever is watching, little Filipino girl tuning in, yes, you can do it too. And I think that's why representation is so important, because it just makes everyone feel seen and heard. And so my company is called Commotion Pictures because it's time for the underrepresented to make some noise. It's time for us to make a commotion. So.
Hey, I love that. And it's about time. It's about time. I guess last follow-up question about that is why now? Why now, right? Because given all the strikes that have been happening, the writer's strike, also the actress strike, why now specifically to launch Commotion Pictures? Why not maybe 4 years ago?
I feel like now with the Crazy Rich Asians coming out, with movies like Joyride, Parasite, when Parasite won the Oscars, that kind of made me realize that Hollywood is ready for our stories now. It kind of showed Hollywood that our stories are, for lack of a better term, because it is an entertainment business, our stories make money. And our stories, people want to watch our stories. They'll go to the movie theaters and buy a ticket, and it's worth investing in because, it does make people want to watch movies. So Parasite again, and then like recent films right now, like Joyride, it makes me feel a little bit more hopeful that Hollywood now is open to hearing more of our stories. But what's happening is we're hearing a lot of Chinese American stories. We're hearing a lot of Korean stories. For me in particular, I think I would love to hear more Filipino stories. I would love to hear. There's all sorts of other cultures out there in the world. And I think the more we tell these stories, the more we feel connected to everyone as a whole, as citizens of the world. So I chose now because I think the world is ready for it. I think we've been silenced for so long that we're just itching to have a platform. We're itching to have a chance to shine as well. And let me tell you, if you give us that opportunity, you're just going to be blown away by everything that comes out. So get ready, world, because we're coming for you.
Get ready, world. And yes, I definitely do agree. I definitely do agree that there is a demand for Asian Filipino stories to be told. And, super happy that you're doing this and making Commotion Pictures a reality.
Yeah,
and whoever wants to go to their second launch party, can you tell a little bit about more details on that?
Right. So I threw a launch party this past Saturday in Los Angeles, which was really great. I was tired of all of the negativity, and I wanted to bring a little bit of positivity to the communities that were like standing in solidarity for a better future. And so I was like, why not? What better time to do that than like, let me just throw a big party for the underrepresented community and in conjunction celebrate the successful year that Commotion Pictures has had. So the first party was last Saturday in LA, and that was really quite the night. If you were able to join us, I'm glad that you could experience that. But for those that didn't, there's part 2 in Oakland this Saturday. It's at 6:30 in Full Out Studios, 1225A 7th Street in Oakland. Please join us. It's going to be vendor fairs, performers from the underrepresented community. We have someone doing tarot readings. We have someone doing spoken word poetry. It's about to be another memorable night. And I'm just like so honored that I'm able to host another party to celebrate the underrepresented community up in the Bay where I'm from. So a lot of my family's going to be there. And Bay Area folks, like we like to party. So
yes, represent. Absolutely. Yeah. And from what I've seen in the live stream of the LA launch party, it seemed like a really amazing event with all those performers and, people interacting with each other, like fellow Filipino filmmakers as well. So
the Filipino community showed up, man. I was so blown away. It was just overwhelming, the love from the Filipino community. So I just want to shout out Philam Creative. Thank you so much for being my community partners. They sent me MJ Ricadio with Blog Talk Radio, who was another community partner, and Ube Arte. They did a Kulintang performance, Rondalia, and Tinikling. Those are all like traditional Filipino folk dances and folk music. And my One Down Media was also a community partner. So I'm just so grateful for the support that I've been getting from the Filipino community, the Philam community. Like you said, and we were talking about community earlier, it's so nice when you do feel that support because it uplifts you, right? And it also uplifts others who are trying to do the same thing and have the same mission. So isang bagsak, right? Like,
yes,
one down.
One down, absolutely.
One down.
And yeah, I love all those partners that you had, and I just love seeing like the community supporting each other, because there was a tendency, or at least I've seen some tendencies of like Filipinos, I guess, being divided too from time to time, right? But like, I guess seeing this it melts my heart. It's amazing. But thank you for sharing that, and super excited for people to go to your second launch party. So
come to Oakland
be there
this Saturday.
Yes. A few more questions regarding the underrepresented. So I wanted to ask, like, what are your aspirations and hopes for the future of filmmaking, particularly in terms of like supporting underrepresented voices?
Oh gosh, I hope that people see the value in hearing more of our stories. Oftentimes, what most indie filmmakers have a hard time with is financing. Most of the time, we're making these movies out of our own pockets, and that's just not a viable business plan because you can only do so much with that. The movie making industry is very expensive, and because it's expensive, a lot of us people of color don't normally come from like deep pockets like some of our white counterparts have been like privileged to have. So it's just like that. I hope that investors and financiers will look a little bit more kindly onto our stories and just realize that while we don't start in the same like starting line as some of our other more privileged counterparts, we are survivors. We are resilient. And I think that's why our stories kind of like strike a certain chord, because if you didn't oppress us, then we wouldn't like that feeling of being free to tell your story, that feeling of being free to live your truth and do what it is that you want, just feels that much more special, that much more I don't know, it makes you feel that much more alive, because we know how it is to be to come from such a dark place, to come from places that we had to really fight our way through to get there. So I hope it's kind of like that underdog story, you know, like invest in our stories. You're just going to get that much more of a reward once you see us shining. So let us thrive, because we're done surviving now. We've survived. Like, let us thrive, please.
Yes, let us thrive. And I really hope, I agree with you. I hope that, you know, more investors will come into play, and also, you know, a lot of supporters will be also, you know, helping these Filipino artists and Filipino filmmakers on their journey and also on their projects, because all of our stories are amazing, right? And amazing, and they need to be told. So, you know, I think we're slowly starting to see that, which I'm happy about. Like, even with your event, like people showing up, that's amazing.
Yeah, I want to add too, like, it's also up to us to, yes, open the door, but also keep the door open for the next generation of storytellers. So that's also a large part of my company. What I like to do, I'm launching a mentorship program, because I think a lot of us in the underrepresented community, the arts are only for people with money, and that's really not the case. I think you could be successful. Success is defined by, you know, everyone has their own level of their own definition of success. And to me, I think if you're doing what you love to do, and if what you love to do is being a creative and it's in the arts, then if you're doing that, you're already successful. And again, the success and the accolades, the money, that will come because you're doing what you love to do. So that's kind of my message to the future generation. Just like keep doing what brings you joy, because everything else will follow, and like the world will be a better place for it.
Absolutely. My heart is full right now. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I truly believe in the notion, like, if you build it, they will come, right? Like, once you build your, you know, whether it's a production company or things you're doing, and then you have all your supporters rally behind you, that's just such an amazing feeling. So thank you so much for that. For aspiring filmmakers or Filipino filmmakers, or even individuals, right, that are interested in supporting these underrepresented voices, like, what advice would you give them to make like a positive impact in the industry?
Yeah, I feel like when you tell stories that come from the heart, like, this is an advice that I hear all the time, but it makes sense, because when you tell something that is authentic and it's true to you, and if you could get as specific as you can, the truth that you put out there translates through the screen and into people's hearts, and then that's kind of where your stories become universal, if that makes sense. And also to dream big. I started this filmmaking journey in 2018, so that was like 5 years ago, and now I'm a CEO and founder of my company. And honestly, again, if I can do it, so can you. And if you shoot for the moon, at least, like, you know, you're swimming in the stars if you fall short. Like, let's be our audacious, loud selves. Like, let's kind of celebrate what makes us unique, because in celebrating that, I think it shows our hearts to the world, and it allows everyone to kind of be a part of that experience. I don't know. For me, I think sharing experiences allows us to get more connected to each other, and it just makes the world a better place. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
All right, we're done. Just kidding. Yeah.
Save the world. Plant some trees.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would also say, though, that along that path where, because filmmaking is not an easy journey, right? And even like, for example, like coming up with a production company and do all these responsibilities, there's going to be a lot of like challenges along the way. So,
right.
So any words of encouragement for those facing, I guess, similar hurdles?
Yeah, do it scared. Do it scared. If you don't know it, you'll figure it out, because again, it's what you want to do. Have that audacity, have that tenacity to really make your dreams a reality, because again, when you do, it's the greatest feeling in the world when you live your truth. So the things like perfectionism paralysis, imposter syndrome, those are all things that everyone goes through. Like, find me someone who doesn't experience those things, but while still being wildly successful. And so for me, I like to say, be louder than the noise that's trying to silence you.
Ooh.
So it's just like, make a commotion. just make a noise. dare to be bigger than what you thought you could be, because really you can do so much more, and you deserve so much more than what you think you deserve. So yeah.
Absolutely. Very inspirational.
Yeah. Watch some talks, go to panels. Any chance you can go to a screening that has a Q&A with the director, those are so valuable. And for me, I learn a lot by doing. Like, if you really want to tell stories, it's not about the fancy cameras. It's not about all of those things. It's really, at the end of the day, if you're telling a good story, it's going to translate and everyone's going to gravitate towards it and be so proud that you even got anything done. Like, again, getting things done in this industry is also another like miracle, right? So just keep creating. The more you create, the better your next projects will be. You're not just going to tell one story. You're going to keep telling more and more, and you just keep leveling up with each one. And so that's kind of also like, if this is what you want to do, always try to push yourselves to be a little bit better than who you were yesterday.
Perfect. That's amazing. I guess we're almost out of time, but like, anything else you'd like to share before we finish?
Come to Oakland. Come if you're interested in being a part of learning more about the industry, the filmmaking industry. If you're 18 and up, I'm doing a mentorship program. It's opening October 1st, and you just submit a 1-minute video of what being underrepresented and what having a voice as someone underrepresented means to you. And then you get to, the selected participants will be a part of a full production set for 5 days in June 2024. And I rotate you out the different departments like camera, lighting, sound. So if you're 18 and up or know someone in high school wanting to get a little taste of the film industry, I think that's a great program to look into. And then I'm constantly looking for donors and financiers. Please support our stories. I have this magnificent gold donor pin that I'm doing right now with my company, where donors who reach a certain bracket will be able to attend all Commotion Pictures screenings for free for life. This isn't the only, like, we're not only going to make one story. Like I said, we're just going to keep making more and more stories. And if you would like to be a part of that, and a part of the journey, just come join Commotion Pictures. Be a donor, be a member, be a mentor. Commotionpictures.com if you find out more about it. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. It seems like there's so much to learn from your production company. I just want to thank you for sharing all those things, and also the advice you're giving to the listeners of the house. So thank you so much, Camila. And I know you already mentioned about the website, but where else can people find your company, like social media?
We're also on Instagram at Commotion Pictures with an A. So CAMMOTION Pictures. And then for me, I am the Camila Villanueva on Instagram. So TheCamila Villanueva. And then, commotionpictures.com.
Absolutely. And everyone feel free to reach out, whether it's like about the mentorship program or anything about Commotion Pictures. So that's very exciting. So I guess last one, people you want to shout out, organizers, communities, groups, here and there. Go for it.
So many. I want to thank, Wellcraft Events. This is Taylor Ashley. She's helping me. She's a huge help to all of the planning of the launch parties in LA and in Oakland. Again, Phil M. Creative, Mark Labella, who got me in contact with MJ Ricardio, who was the host for the LA show, Eleanor, who was from Ube Arte, who got me the Kulintang dancers, the Rondalia performers, and the Tinikling dancers. Jared Kalidison, who's helped me with my logo and my website. Tim Collins, who was the technical director for the LA show. DAF Studios, the venue for the LA show. Full Out Studios, the venue for Oakland. My parents, my dad for giving me his charm, and my mom for giving me her compassion. Just everyone else who's been a part of this journey, who just follows along, who just likes photos and leaves me kind words. I know that you don't think I see you, but I do. And each one of those thank yous and each one of those you're doing great things is just an extra drop in this bucket that just fills me up with so much joy. So just thank you for joining and being a part of this journey and keeping me pushing on. There's so many. I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful to you, Juan, for letting me spread my message. And thank you to everyone listening.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And thank you, Camila. And listeners of The Help, please check out all their socials and also the website to learn more about Commotion Pictures and also about Camila. So, yes, Camila, again, thank you so much for being a guest. This has been such an amazing episode and learned so much from you and your insights as well.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you so much.
Thank your teachers, too. Teachers are awesome. Okay, that was it.
Yes.
Have a good day.